Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just DCTV. So we of course have the last or final season of The Flash currently filming now, which will be hitting our way early next year sometime, end of January, maybe early February, something like that. But just, a few months to go until that starts. And that should be the same for the newest season of Superman and Lois as well. For the most part, at least. They might be separated by a few weeks or something, but that'll be up for the CW to decide when they come out. But with The Flash coming to an end, that appears to also be the ending of the Arrowverse as well. At least the Arrowverse as we mostly knew it. Of course, many just see any DC show on the CW as a part of the Arrowverse, which is a fair point, but that whole debate isn't really worth getting into, at least in this video. But it should be at least, it should be the final Earth Prime show, The Flash, when it ends. That should be it for Earth Prime. And with that, Superman and Lois will soon be the main DC show on the CW because there's not the larger universe that it exists outside of still there. With Superman and Lois then having the potential to build out their own world with various other shows or just characters on that show. Now, one of those world-building potential projects is the John Diggle Justice U spin-off, which was announced, I think it was right at the beginning of this year. And it was like a few months or like a handful of months before that bloodbath where like Batwoman and Legends and all those other CW shows were cancelled, because of the impending buyout or takeover of the CW by Nexstar. Now, Justice U would follow Diggle after spending years fighting alongside masked heroes, with him embarking on a new mission to recruit 5 young metahumans to live undercover as freshmen at a prestigious university. There, he would oversee their education as well as train them to become the heroes of tomorrow. Now, of course, as you would expect, people were worried about this project being dead when all those other shows were being cancelled, and it seemed like the CW just wasn't going to make any new shows and go to just like Maury Povich and all that. But those worries were somewhat squashed when David Ramsey, who plays Diggle, said that the show was still in development a few months back, and other sources in the industry said it was still being worked on actively, with the only change being that the show seemingly would now be set on Superman and Lois's Earth, rather than the Arrowverse, which when it was first announced, it was said it was going to be the Diggle that we knew from Arrow, and it'd be set on Earth Prime and based off all of his experiences that we've seen, and that's what he would use to be a mentor to these 5 young metahumans and guide them through everything and stuff like that. So that's the, I guess, big change there. It's not an Arrowverse show, and that could roughly change the general outlook that that they originally had for the show in regards to how Diggle would go about things. Also, who might guest star on the show and stuff like that. Because I remember when the show was first announced and it was said it was going to be in the Arrowverse, there was all the options there that they could have literally heroes that Diggle knows come in as guest stars to mentor. So you could have Laurel Lance in an episode, Ray Palmer in an episode, Barry Allen in an episode, or just the Flash appears and be a mentor for one episode if they want to do it. And that would be a cool concept. But if it's set on Superman and Lois' Earth, which it seems it's going to be, you can have a Superman show up, I guess, but that's pretty much it. But I guess for the most part, the general concept of the show would, it'd probably be the same despite the change in world. Now, of course, Superman is believed to be the only good powered person on his Earth. So having a random amount of metahuman teenagers just all of a sudden appear that they can be on a show would be very coincidental. So maybe there is an incident that changes them or creates them, or they are maybe leftovers from a government project, like we saw in season 2 with Tag Harris. He's a teenager, so he could be a part of that show. It could be something like that. But over the past week, we did get another update on this project, which might suggest when we will hear if the show will actually happen. So this is coming from TV Line, and their insider section thing that they do. So here is the question that someone asked, and here's the answer that TV Line, gave in return. Any newer updates on Justice U, given all the changes going on at the CW and Warner Brothers Discovery? David Ramsey told us this past Saturday night at a gala honoring Greg Berlanti's mother and benefiting F Cancer that we're on the second draft of a script and we just closed the deal on a writer. I'm not sure I can say her name, so I won't, but we're very close to submitting our second draft. It's still in development and we're moving forward. So while positive updates are of course very good to hear, it's also not that much of a surprise. This is where they are at if the show was still in the works. They are on the second draft of the pilot episode script, but the more positive side would be closing the deal with the writer. That shows that there is some support behind what's going on. But yeah, the quote from David there of it's still in development, we're moving forward, is really the main thing to take from all of that. But what is forward from this point? Well, that next update should come early next year, maybe in like January or February, roughly. I guess around the time that's the Flash and or the new seasons of The Flash and Superman and Lois come out. And that goes back to that point where I'm saying it's not too much of a surprise because pilot season is approaching in that March to May area. So in that early part of next year, if things do go well, we should hear that the pilot has been greenlit, firstly, which will then lead to castings for the show, of course, outside of John Diggle himself. And we will probably learn more on what the show is going to be about now, if it has changed since the original announcement, which, as I said before, at the moment is just that it won't be on Earth Prime anymore like it was before. Of course, there could be some minor updates from this point here and there, but that's like a wait and find out. But there are a couple of questions that surround this. Now, the first one is, will Superman and Lois set this show up? Just like, I guess, how like Arrow set up The Flash, and then Flash and Arrow set up Legends, and then Elseworlds, like all the shows involved with Elseworlds set up Batwoman. Like, could that happen on Superman and Lois? And the answer to that is probably. And that mainly is because we have Diggle appearing on Superman and Lois. And if the show is set on Superman and Lois's Earth, surely you would take the advantage of just having a show there where you can maybe implement like a hanging thread of a storyline that starts in Superman and Lois and then leads into the pilot of Justice U. Or it could be something as simple as I said, tag Harris, before. He's like a hanging thread or like a leftover from the government super soldier sort of thing. Maybe he's like out there, maybe he's struggling or something like that, doesn't know what to do, and that's where Diggle takes the initiative, or Diggle's asked to take the initiative to do something that revolves around that general concept for Justice U. And maybe he has to go find these other, 3 or 4 or 5, however many people are going to make it on this show now, how many teenagers to, assemble that group or whatever it is. And I think if Superman and Lois is going to be used as something to set it up, which I think is probably a more likely thing to happen than not, you'd probably hear news about it sooner rather than later. But I guess it depends when they would do it during Superman and Lois' season. You wouldn't want them doing it during like the second last episode of the newest season that's coming out. You'd probably want them doing like around the halfway point. So you could maybe hear it before they even greenlit the pilot. So yeah, maybe keep your eyes and ears out for that one. Now, another big question, which is going to be there for a while, I guess until probably this time next year, and that's, is Gotham Knights on Superman and Lois' Earth? Like, David Ramsey did say that Gotham Knights was on Superman and Lois' Earth, but I think he was just speaking loosely. I don't think he was really confirming anything, and that it could have been him maybe making assumptions at the same time. But even if like they have intentions to do that, and like this is like a new sort of like connected universe or connected Earth and stuff like that, I don't think they would make any decisions on whether they're connected or not until at least after the general response from fans to the show. Of course, the trailer's got some backlash, but we don't know what the actual pilot episode, what episode 2 and 3 are like. It could be a decent show. So I think that has to play out. A general feel for the show has to be laid out for fans to take in and see whether they like it or not. And if Gotham Knights is just a show that's just not going to work, then they just don't have to connect it. And they could literally film 2 scenes, like different scenes that could air in an episode. One, yeah, we're connected to Gotham Knights, and another one, no, we're not. So it could literally be something in Superman and Lois's, third last episode of their newest season that they're filming now, and it's like a newspaper that said Batman died, or Bruce Wayne was murdered and Bruce Wayne was Batman. Could be something as simple as that, and that's the connective tissue. And in the following season, which would be Superman and Lois season 4 and Gotham Knights season 2, then they can do a crossover, which then can involve Justice U as well. So it's baby steps from here. I think that's the best way to do it. And in regards to other potential spin-offs from Superman and Lois, I mean, it's hard to think of any now, like really, especially off the top of your head, but just in general, because it would be up to the show, the show of Superman and Lois to introduce new characters or just scenarios for potential shows as well. But of course, with the CW having new owners, the overall like freedom with expansion of the DC world just isn't really there. Like, you're really taking, like I said before, baby steps for now. It's very similar to like when Arrow first started, because Arrow came out of the Smallville era and they were going to continue Smallville and they decided not to. It's actually very similar. We're in a bit of a similar predicament here. Smallville went for 10 years and then they were going to spin off Smallville into a Green Arrow show with Justin Harley and decided to not do that. There was backlash back then. People wouldn't remember that, maybe because you're too young or something like that. But there was backlash then to start this new show with Stephen Amell, and then Arrow created this 10-year Arrowverse world. Once again, very similar to how Smallville went for 10 years. And now we're having Superman and Lois take over as the head show after something else just did something for 10 years. So Arrow took the baby steps out, slowly did 2 seasons, then brought in Flash, did Flash for season, did Legends, and like Supergirl wasn't even really meant to be a part of it initially. It was on a completely different channel. So the Arrowverse took baby steps and then grew really rapidly. So the exact same thing can happen here with Superman and Lois. It just depends what they bring to the table, whether fans take it in properly. It's a different landscape than it was 10 years as well, even 5 years ago on the TV space. Like a lot of TV shows on streaming are movie level. Like it's not really TV. It's a movie split up into 6 parts. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go about it, how people respond to it. But from this point forward, I guess it's a wait and see. But Superman and Lois has set up a good foundation, just like how Arrow did. So yeah, we'll wait and find out. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about everything we went over. Very curious to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.